Waiting for sunshine.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live One for One, where we have conversations that challenge us to live a life that will change a life. My name is John, and I have one of my heroes here today, and this is a lady, I'm serious, and that not only helped me at the beginning of what we were trying to do through our nonprofit, the Bridge House, which is transitional housing. She helped me just give access to her staff, who really helped us be able to kind of with our processes and procedures. And this girl is a rock star in the foster care space. And I can't believe, first off, you're here. I thought for sure when I called you, Rhonda, I was like, hey, I was kind of hesitant. Like, I know you're busy. I'd love to have you on the podcast. And I thought for sure you're going to be like, oh, yeah, let me get back to you. And you're like, oh, yeah, when are we going to do it? And then next thing you know, I'm like, do you want to do, I'm assuming digitally because you know you're busy. No, yeah, let's do it in person. I'm okay, let's do this. So this is happening right now. So, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Man, it's awesome.
Well, first of all, because I'm far from a rock star. And secondly, because you're one of my favorite people. So, yeah,
come on.
that's why I wanted to sit and just
appreciate
chat.
it.
So, yeah.
I appreciate it. Man, I know. And we're in this space, we're going to talk a lot about, leadership today and just God bringing favor upon things that he really cares about. And I think it's really important when we're looking at the space today, as we kind of talk about foster care, we talk about transitional housing and your heart and how Isaiah House started and kind of where it's headed now. It is so vital, not only to our community, to our schools, to our churches, but I think it's biblically God saying, hey, I care about this and you should too. But I'd love to hear from you. First off, tell everyone who maybe they've never heard of transitional housing and Isaiah House, like maybe what is it? And then I'd love to hear from you, just how did this even start with you? Because you have locations all around, the United States, and you're growing rapidly. And God, every time I talk to you, it's like, oh yeah, we have more land donated and we're building another house, and more land donated
Don't be
and
bitter.
building a house.
Don't be bitter, John.
I'm not bitter. I know. I'm very curious.
We were talking before the podcast.
I know
I'm totally
were.
kidding.
I know,
Totally
but it is funny because I think every entrepreneur, every business person, I think we do accomplish a lot because we are very competitive with ourselves and we have high expectations. And then when you see other people just growing exponentially, you're like, what's going on here? Like, how are they doing this? So I think it's going to be exciting for people that are even business leaders, because there's such an element to this as well that's has a business side and administrative side to be successful too. But first off, tell us what Isaiah House is, and why the Isaiah House.
Yeah, so Isaiah 117 House
Yep.
exists to reduce trauma for children who are entering the foster care system.
Mm-hmm.
It also exists to lighten the load of the caseworker, and it exists to make that yes easier for that foster parent or that kinship placement. So we want to ease that transition for wherever that child is going next.
Right.
And it came out of lived experience.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about foster care, but when my husband and I found ourselves in this world, honestly, we were shocked. I just remember, accepting our first foster placement.
Yeah.
And being like, this is the plan? Like, you pick a child up at the back door and they have nothing but a roach-infested diaper bag? Like, that's the plan? And then you start talking to other foster parents and they're like, oh yeah, my child came with one shoe. Oh yeah, my teen came with a trash bag. Oh yeah, my kid came with nothing.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize the children of our country enter foster care with nothing. And I just remember being so brokenhearted for them because it's not their fault.
Yeah.
They've done nothing wrong. And the embarrassment and the lack of dignity in that, that just floored me.
Yeah.
And then as you start to learn about Removal Day, because I feel like a lot of people outside of this world, which is where I lived till 2014.
Sure.
You hear about Removal Day and you're like, well, that's good. Get that kid out of there, and you think, well, yay, they'll be safe now and they'll be fed and they'll be at school and that's good. Yay, But when you watch a child walk through Removal Day, when God allows you to see Removal Day through the eyes of that child, you realize there's nothing to celebrate. I mean, that child's entire world is flipped upside down. They lose mama, and they will always love her.
Mm-hmm.
They lose their home. They lose their pets. More than likely, they're going to be separated from their siblings because nobody can take a sibling group of 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
They may lose their school because they may have to change counties. If they lose their school, they just lost their teacher. They lost their friends. I mean, every aspect of this child's life comes tumbling down. And what we realized was that child in that traumatic state, the plan across this country is that child goes to a state office and they just sit and they wait.
Right.
So they're scared, they're confused, they feel like they're in trouble. They may feel guilt, especially if they've said something that caused this to happen. They're tired, they're probably dirty.
Yeah.
They're sitting in a state office for hours, maybe days.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'm like, this is the plan?
Yeah.
Like, that child that's done nothing wrong was at school, wanted to get on the school bus, and was told, I'm sorry, you can't go home. I don't know when you'll see your mom, but you
Mm-hmm.
need to go with this lady you've never met and go sit in the state office for the next 12 hours.
Wow.
And I just couldn't believe, like, that's the plan.
That's brutal.
And then we lived it for 2 years, and I just watched these caseworkers. And I say this with all
Sure.
all the love of my heart, but I've never met a more unhealthy group of people in my life
Mm-hmm.
because the job's killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're exhausted and they're running on fumes and they don't eat and they don't sleep. And they're bathing babies in drug testing sinks and they're picking lice out in their break rooms and they're telling their own kids they can't come home. And I just kept watching this for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017. And I just kept thinking, this is the plan?
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
And that is really where the idea of Isaiah 117 house came from.
What was the year that you kind of got to that point where you're saying, hey, you saw this, you were a foster parent, and now you're saying, hey, we need to start an organization. We don't know what it's called, but we're going to do something.
So when I was going through foster care training in 2014,
Okay.
God and I had a moment. I was very angry with God.
Mm.
We were sitting in a conference room, and the gentleman leading the class said that a little girl had slept on that floor the night before.
Oh, wow.
And we're sitting in a conference room, and they've since redone the room. It's still a state office, but at that time it was gray and drab, and the floor was nasty and state issued furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And he said a little girl had slept on that carpet, and I lost it. You know, I just started crying. I couldn't stop, and I just started screaming at God in my head.
Mm.
I was so mad that he would let that happen to one of his children.
Mm.
And that's how I felt in that moment. I was
Sure.
like, how could you? Like, that little girl is yours, and you just left her on a conference room floor?
Yeah.
Like, she's all by herself. Who's telling her that she's beautiful? Who's telling her that she's worthy? Who's telling her that she can do this? Who's telling her that there's hope? Like,
Yeah.
who's telling her that, Lord? Like,
Right.
how could you do this? And I was so mad in that conference room. And, you know, people say they hear God. For me, it's like this feeling that comes over my whole body. And it's not like a voice, but it's like I feel these words, and it's just throughout my whole body. And I just felt, these are my children. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And that even made me madder, because I was like, what am I going to do?
Right.
Like, I'm doing the best I can. I've taken foster care classes. I'm trying to be a good Christian. Like, what am I going to do? Like,
Right.
I'm a cheer and dance coach.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you fix this.
That's
you know,
awesome.
like, what? And so I left that conference room just thinking, I can't do anything about that. That is too big.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing the very best I can. I have drugged my husband to foster care classes.
Yeah.
I'm doing all I can, Lord.
Right.
I can't fix this. And so then in 2015, we said yes to our first foster placement,
Okay.
a little boy named Isaiah.
Oh, gotcha.
And then that led us to reading the book of Isaiah.
Mm.
And Isaiah 117 became our family verse, which says, do good, seek justice, take care of the widow, take care of the orphan.
Yes.
But why we loved that verse. I mean, when you read that verse and you're taking care of a 9-month-old
Yeah, for sure.
that you've never met.
Yeah, that hits home.
Yeah. But what I love about that verse and what I love about the Bible is it's living and it's breathing and it's just as relevant today as it was then.
Come on.
But that verse is so relevant for us as Christians today, because if you look at that context, God is speaking to his people and he says, you think I want what you're currently doing? Like, you actually think I want these new moon festivals and these sacrifices?
Yeah.
They're making me sick to my stomach.
Right.
And I feel like if he was here today, there are a lot of things that we are spending our time and money as churches doing that he would say, you think I want what you're actually doing? Like, you think that's what I want you doing? No. What I want you to do is to do good and seek justice and take care of the widow and take care of the orphan.
Man.
And so Isaiah 117 was just our family verse.
Okay.
And so we've got this little boy in our home named Isaiah. We have our family verse, Isaiah 117.
Yeah.
And we are just trying to make it through our very first foster care experience from 2015 till 2017. But we're just being hit by, this can't be the plan.
Right.
Like, this can't be the plan. Not for the child, not for the caseworker, not for that foster parent. I mean, we said yes to a baby. I don't know why, still to this day, the Lord.
Yeah.
Because we had not had a baby in our house in 9 years.
Okay.
And I'm driving home and it hits me. We have nothing for a baby. Like, we have nothing.
Right.
I mean, I tell people all the time, my husband had a procedure, so that would never happen again. So we didn't have anything in our house for a baby.
That's hilarious.
And so I called my friend Amy and I said, hey, we've taken our first placement, say a prayer. And she did a lot more than pray. She got on the phone, she called all her friends, and within a night, we had people in our guest room setting up a crib. We had a high chair. We had diapers, formula wipes. Somebody showed up at my front door with $500 and said, buy him whatever he needs. I mean,
wow.
And that weekend, I thought, if Isaiah's mom had had this kind of community, I wouldn't have Isaiah.
Wow.
Then I also thought, if you're a foster parent and you don't have this kind of community, you can't say yes.
Right.
And we need people to say yes. And so all this is going through my head from 2015 till 2017. In 2017, in January of 2017, which is 117, and I did not plan that. God is very funny.
No way.
In January of 2017, I went to my boss. I was working full time as a cheer and dance coach and an anatomy professor.
Okay.
And I went to him and I asked to go part time. And he said, why do you need to go part time? I said, I just need to make some space. And I got on my knees in my bedroom and I said, God, I'm making space. And I don't know what you want me to do, but I will do it. And that was the beginning. And I met a friend of mine named Julie. We'd been through foster care classes together and we talked every week and said, this can't be the plan. Our husbands will not let us bring every child home. And we can't walk away. We know now.
Yeah.
But this cannot be the plan.
Sure.
And we met at a coffee shop and we Googled how to start a nonprofit. I tell people all the time, if you want God to have the glory, you put someone totally ill-equipped in charge.
That's right.
So that's how I got my job.
That's how he gets it.
He was like, I'm going to put this cheer and dance coach in charge, and they're going to know I did it.
That's for sure. That's awesome.
And yeah, it was just this idea that there has to be a better way.
Yeah. And
so we started asking people to join us, and we had our first board meeting February 26th of 2017.
Okay.
And then it just started to take shape. Like, what if there was a home? Like, what if when a child is going through the most traumatic day of their life, they don't go to a cubicle or a conference room, they go to a home.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a drug testing sink to bathe you in. We have a bathtub.
Right.
And we don't have a vending machine to feed you from. We have a kitchen because we're a home. And we don't have a cot or a blanket on the floor. We have a bedroom because we're a home.
That's right.
We don't have a parking lot. We have a play set and a basketball goal. And just what could that do for a child? And how could that change the messaging? Like, you matter. There is hope. You are loved. You are not in trouble. This is happening to you, not because of you.
That's right.
And what could we do for that black trash bag and nothing, one shoe. What if we had an entire floor of just all new things?
Yes.
And we just take them up there and say, what do you want? What do you need?
Yeah.
And when they say, where did all this come from? We say, God built this house for you for this day.
I love that.
Because he has never left you.
Yeah.
And he's always going before you. Because you are loved and you are not alone. And how different is that from a conference room floor?
That's right.
And so that was the dream for the child. And then what about a home office for the caseworker?
Yeah.
And if they could work on the paperwork and we could love on the child together, we could do this really well.
Yeah.
And then how could we love on them? Like, what's your favorite coffee?
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite creamer? What if we put a snack list on the fridge? You write down any snack you love. We'll have it here next time.
Mm.
And we're ordering dinner. Don't say you don't want any because we know you haven't eaten today.
That's right.
And by the way, do you want to go on the porch and just cry? Because removal day is hard on everybody.
Yeah.
And then what about that call to that future placement? What if we could say, we know this is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sibling group of 3, but they've all had baths. They have bags of everything they need for the next week. What do you need? High chair, formula, diapers, wipes, twin beds, carbon monoxide detector, pool alarm, fire extinguisher, like you name it.
Right.
And we're going to get it for you because I'm going to be honest. We need you to say yes.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go this alone.
Right.
And so, yeah, early 2017, that was the dream. Like, what if there was a home that could reduce trauma, lighten the load of the caseworker, and make that yes easier?
That's so powerful. Where did you go from there? Like, you had this huge what if moment. Your board, I'm sure some of them, I mean, I know board members from all different makes and models, and, you know, where would we be without our amazing board members? A lot of times we get that vision and we're excited, and they're, you know, all the questions start to come and how are we going to do this? So what did you do from that point? Obviously you're full of passion. You know that God spoke to you. You know there's a need. You're charged up. And then what?
I literally started talking to anyone that would listen to me.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine, her name is Joy. A friend of mine she had helped other nonprofits with social media.
Okay.
I tell people all the time, as of 2017, I had never been on the Facebook.
Yeah.
I had 0 social media.
I love it. The Facebook.
That's awesome. I would not get on the Facebook.
Yeah.
Because when I got on the Facebook, I learned I wasn't living my best life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, everybody else was prettier and their kids were prettier and everybody went on vacation all the time.
For sure. Yeah.
It just made me feel bad.
If you want to feel really bad about yourself, start looking at everybody else's life on Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
It'll happen quick.
That's right. I was like, I had no idea my life was this bad.
Right.
And so I just didn't get on Facebook.
Yeah,
and she was like, you cannot do this without a social media presence.
Sure.
And so she called back the next day. She said, I set a whole Facebook page up for you. Did you figure it out? I was like, nope. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
I'm not getting on the Facebook.
Yeah.
She called back the next day. Rhonda, you got to get on Facebook. I was like, I'm not going to do it. And she said, well, I posted a video of you and your husband. And so far, 25,000 people have watched it.
Oh, my gosh.
So our church had done a special about adoption and foster care.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had come and they videotaped my husband and I about our foster care journey.
Yeah.
She had gotten a hold of that video and she had posted it. And it went mini viral in our little community.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, every newspaper, radio station, every news station, they were all calling me and they wanted to hear more about this home.
Yeah.
Well, there was no home, but they wanted to hear more about this dream of what if there was a home. And so literally I was on every local news station, every newspaper, every radio station. Well, then that led to like every church.
Right.
And then I always say that I couldn't go anywhere in our little community. I'd say I'd go to Walmart.
Yeah.
And some big burly man would stop me and he'd be like, my wife made me watch that video of you and your husband. I was crying in my coffee. We got to get them kids a house.
I'm not from Tennessee, but I could just picture that. Like I can see that, you know, and the culture in the South is very real. And, you know, it really is a real thing to have these big burly dudes. And yet they're so, you know, they're so soft inside. It's awesome.
So he'd be standing in Walmart crying and they'd hand me a check.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Like they'd get them kids a house and they'd hand me a check. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
And so all of a sudden there was like this, all of a sudden I was just talking to anybody that would listen. And then a friend of mine, I told her I wanted to make 12 t-shirts. We had 10 board members and me and Corey. I wanted them to say, "Love, you're not alone" on the front, because that's our motto. We want the child to know they're not alone. We want the caseworker to know they're not alone. And we want that future placement to know they're not alone. "Love, you're not alone" on the front, our logo on the back, 12 t-shirts. She made them on her kitchen counter with a Cricut. I gave them to the board members, me and Corey. Joy told me to post every night at 9. There was something magical about that on the Facebook. So it's summer of 2017. I said, "Corey, can I post a picture of you wearing that shirt?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think people will think we're selling them?" He said, "No." I posted the picture. We had 100 orders in 30 minutes.
No way.
Joy calls me. She says, "Tell me you're not selling t-shirts out of the back of your van." I was like, "Oh, I can one up you. There are no t-shirts."
Yeah.
She said, "Are you kidding me?" We first started selling t-shirts. She set up a GoFundMe page.
Oh my gosh.
People would donate $20 and I would drive to their house and with a t-shirt in a Walmart bag and throw it on their porch. I'm not even kidding. To date, we've sold over $1.5 million worth of t-shirts that we weren't selling.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
So
That's another reason why I'm competitive right now, because I've had my t-shirts up on the merch website. I haven't sold more than 5. Definitely not a revenue stream.
Start a GoFundMe page
and
start delivering
dropping them off at their doorstep. There you
Walmart
go.
bags. So literally, like, it was wild. So I would be at the grocery store.
That's crazy.
And somebody would say, "I'll hold your buggy. Go out to your van, get me a large and an extra large."
Yeah.
I was selling t-shirts out of the back of my van. Everybody's liking and sharing all this stuff. And then children in our community, totally organically, started holding lemonade stands because they heard there were children that needed a home.
Wow.
$7,000 was raised that first summer in Carter County, Tennessee, by children holding lemonade stands.
That's insane.
It was insane. And so by summer, we had someone approached me and said, "We want to sell our house.
Yeah. We've
not put it on the market. If it will work for you all, we'd be willing to talk price or whatever." Okay. So before that, I had one of my senior dancers, her graphic design major project was our logo.
Okay.
And I said, "Every time I see this house in my mind, it's a white house. There's a red door. There's a big picture window. There's a Christmas tree in the window. There's colored lights. And underneath the tree, there's presents. And every time a child comes in, there's a present with their name on it." That's what I keep seeing.
Yeah.
So she made our logo, and there's a red eye, and that's the individual child. And she made the H, a white house with a red door.
Yeah.
And so that was our logo. She made that in spring.
Okay.
Summer, he says, "Our house," gives me the address. I pull up. It's a white house with a red door with a big picture window. I was like, "I think this is our house."
Wow.
And so I told him, I was like, "I don't know why I have this number in my mind, but $75,000 is what we're hoping to pay for a house." And he said, "We were hoping to sell it for a lot more." And I said, "I get that. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to, like, that's just our number. No worries, And so he said, I said, "That's fine. No worries, blah, blah." So we went our separate ways. And he called back the next day and he said, "My wife and I prayed about it, and we'd like to sell our house to you for $75,000.
Wow.
And so that was our goal, was to raise $75,000. And we had it by the end of August.
Okay.
We paid $75,593 for a home, September of 2017. And then we found out that there were some foundational issues, which he had told us. It was built in 1940.
Yeah.
But then the state came in and said they wanted us to remove every load-bearing wall on the first floor.
Oh my gosh.
So it would be open concept.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't do details, but that sounded like a big deal.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to do youth groups. I thought youth groups were going to come in. We're going to put lipstick on this pig. We're just going to open these doors,
Right. Right.
And all of a sudden, the little codes man, Elizabeth, he was like,
"Right.
You're not going to do youth groups here." So I called in this contractor. He was the brother of a friend of mine. And I said, "Travis, can you remove every load-bearing wall on the first floor of this house and fix the foundational issues for free?" He's like, "What? Oh, Rhonda, let me get back to you."
Yeah.
So 5 days later, I find out that he has just been hired by the largest contracting firm in our area. We get called into Mitch Cox Companies in Johnson City, Tennessee. We sit down in their boardroom, and we are told if we will demo that house to the studs, they will rebuild it for free, but we have to demo it in the next week.
What? Okay.
So I get on the Facebook. I said, bring your kids, bring
Yeah.
your sledgehammers. We got to demo this house in 5 days. And I hit post. And immediately my phone rings. It's our insurance guy. He was like, did you just invite children and sledgehammers to a
And
house
chainsaws?
that's uninsured? Details.
Yeah. What's the worst that could happen giving a 12-year-old a chainsaw? What's wrong with you?
21 firefighters showed up and demoed that house in a week.
Wow.
And Mitch Cox Companies rebuilt it for free.
Wow.
And then local furniture store gave all the furniture for free.
Mm-hmm.
Firefighters did our little boys' room, firefighter theme. They gave us a plaque for the room. They had their emblem in the middle and a verse from Isaiah. And it said, they will walk through the fire, but they will not be burned.
Mm.
And I remember the day they gave us that plaque, it just felt like the entire community had rallied.
Yeah.
You know, I always say all the firsts showed up: First Baptist, First Pres, First Memorial. The Kiwanians, the Rotarians,
Mm-hmm.
the nursing home did a bake sale. The car show gave us money. The football team,
Right.
the kids are holding lemonade stands. It
Sure.
literally felt like God mobilized an entire community, and everybody just gave of what they had. And in less than a year, we had this beautiful home, debt-free, fully funded first year's budget in the bank, 40 trained volunteers, every cabinet full, every closet full. But the day that I realized everybody had given, they give me this plaque.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crying the ugly cry because I'm like, that is the prayer of this home.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all these firefighters are crying the ugly cry. And one of them looks up and goes, well, you know, Mike, he just ordered that off Pinterest. And I'm like, Firefighter Mike is on Pinterest? Like,
Firefighter Mike.
And I was like,
that's awesome.
I mean, everybody just rallied.
Yeah.
And we cut the ribbon in summer of 2018. And I really believed that was the plan. I quit my job in April of 2018 to run the Isaiah 117 house. There was going to be one,
right.
The Isaiah 117 house.
Yeah.
We opened in summer of 2018 and started serving children. And
I'm sure you had children in there like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was the plan.
Right.
And I now know that God was laughing really hard.
Right. Because, I mean, you guys, like, when you started that, you raised the money, demoed the house, you guys built a brand new house, and obviously DCS, this is kind of innovation for them. So here now they no longer have to have kids in offices, and they can now come into your location, and they have just incredible hospitality through your team. And at what point were you like, okay, because there's no model for this, like there was no one to call, I imagine, because I think a lot of the transitional houses, even though there are others, like you guys really set the tone for something very innovative. And so what was it like trying to figure out what are our processes and procedures, and now that we have kids coming in, and what was that journey like?
You know, there was a lady named Pam Har. She was the regional coordinator for the Northeast region.
Mm-hmm.
She had been with the department 36 years.
Okay.
She's still on our board. She's
cool.
retired now. She's on our board. She'll be our president next year.
Okay.
She's on our executive board. She was the first person that I went to. I didn't really know her other than her name. And so the first place I went with this dream in January of 2017 was the office.
Yeah.
And the only office I knew was the Carter County office, because that's where I picked up my child.
Right.
You know? And so I sat down across from her and I just told her this dream. And I tell people all the time, she should have been bitter. 36 years. She should have been jaded.
Yeah.
She should have seen too many things come and go. Too many promises made that no one followed through with. She should have told me no. But she looked at me and said, let's try. And in so many ways, that's why this happened. Because she started working with Nashville. She came to them and said, there was some project going on right then that they wanted regional coordinators to come up with a project to work on. And so she presented Isaiah 117 House as the project she would like to work on.
Okay.
And that was kind of the loophole we snuck in.
Sure.
With. And so she started working with licensing. She started working with how to get state. So she was working that aspect.
Okay.
While I'm working the community.
Right.
So I didn't really work that.
Okay.
Pam Har did.
That's great.
And the licensing guy came, and I met with him, and people would come, and I'd show them the house, and I'd tell them what we're gonna do, and then they'd come back with, I think you need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the licensing guy that came and said, don't ever become a licensed facility.
Mm.
It was him.
Wow.
He was like, you don't want that. Like, you be a community resource that the department can use.
Yeah.
Don't let them make you a licensed facility. And I've held on to that with all that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially as we've gone into other states.
Sure.
It is a fight I've had to fight.
Is it? Okay.
But so yeah, she really worked that side for me.
Okay.
I just worked the community side, awareness side. So I can't take much credit on that side.
Yeah, that's awesome though.
But here's the other thing that happened. And I mean, there was just a perfect storm going on that I can't take credit for at all. Everybody kept saying, you need to get to the governor.
Mm-hmm.
They'd say, you need to get to the governor. I'm like, get to the governor.
Right.
Walk up, knock on the door.
Right, right.
I didn't even know who the governor was. I'm not kidding.
Sure.
That's how unpolitical I am.
Yeah.
So I would put on my to-do list, get to governor. And then I would move it. My to-do list was on notes on my phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just move it each day. I would just get to governor. I would just put it on there.
It's going to get there someday.
And so a lady on our board said, there's this guy running for the nomination for governor.
Mm-hmm.
His name's Bill Lee.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming through town. I want you to meet him at the Carter County House. I said, no. She said, what? I said, I'm not political. She said, Rhonda, you need to meet him. He has this platform, this faith-based initiative.
Mm-hmm.
You need to meet him. I was like, I don't want to get my picture made in front of a bus.
Yeah.
I don't want to meet him.
Sure.
And you know how board members can be.
Right.
You will be meeting him.
Yes, for sure.
So this guy named Bill Lee and his wife Maria
Mm-hmm.
show up at the house. They're sawing, hammering. I don't even ask them to stop. I don't do politics.
Mm-hmm.
We're shouting over it. We get to the top of the stairs, and he says, what do you want me to tell Nashville? And I went off. I was like, you tell Nashville they have forgotten their children. And how do I know that? Because I'm having to build a house because you stick them in an office. And I mean, I am going, I am crying, I am yelling. What do I have to lose? I don't even know who this man is.
Right.
He starts crying. Maria starts crying. And he says, can I pray with you?
Mm.
There are no cameras. There's no photo op, and we pray for the children of Tennessee.
Mm.
And we get done, and Corey loves this. We get done, and I go, can I get my picture made by your bus? You're so easy. So then he wins the nomination.
Yeah.
He comes back through when the house is done. And little do I know, he is now going across the state talking about Isaiah 117 as an example of what the faith-based initiative could do.
Mm.
I don't even know this. He comes back through and sees the finished house.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, this is probably TMI, but the t-shirt you gave my wife, she loves it. She sleeps in it almost every night. I was like, well, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Because you go to bed thinking about my ministry, and we laugh.
Yeah.
Well, then he wins. Well, I have his cell number. So I text him, congratulations. He's like, thanks, Rhonda. I mean,
yeah.
And it doesn't even hit me. I've gotten to the governor. Then he calls and says, hey, I'd like to come to your Greene County groundbreaking, because now we're in Greene County.
Right.
I was like, well, let me check with my people. That sounds good. We're laughing. And so then he shows up in Greene County, brings $100,000.
Wow.
Says, no strings attached. I just want you to expand. Stands up at a microphone and says, I want Isaiah 117 house to be the new standard for every child entering foster care across the state of Tennessee.
Mm.
I peed myself. I was like, what did he just say? What?
Yeah.
But it was a green light.
Wow.
There was no more red tape because the governor of Tennessee just said, go.
Right.
And it was just, I did nothing. Like God had this perfect storm that was already set into motion.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. So what was the transition? What was the next county that you went into?
So
you're in Carter, and then you went to, and then
Greene.
Okay.
Greene, which is not next to us.
Right.
There was a juvenile court judge in Greene County that got on fire about this.
So he calls you?
No, one of our board members.
Okay.
Her daughter was a lawyer in Greene County and said, I think you should meet with this judge.
Yeah.
So I took him lunch, told him about it, and he just went with it.
Yeah.
He had me speaking to anybody that would listen in Greene County, and Greene County went crazy.
Okay.
They got land donated. They had 3 contractors come together. They built a house in 100 days for $37,500.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, lost their minds.
Right.
They still do. It's still one of the most successful homes we have.
That's incredible.
They've been serving children. They've served 1,800 children so far in that home. And so it was Greene County. That was the groundbreaking. And then Washington, which is our neighbor. Then Sullivan. I mean, it was just, and Rutherford was coming by then, and Sevier and Knox. And I mean, they just started coming.
That's incredible. Is it, because how many houses do you have right now?
So currently we have 28 open homes.
Okay.
But we have 57 locations across 12 states. And so what I mean by that is I think we have another 25 that are in construction.
Right.
And then whatever the math is, because I don't do mental math, left, they are either in the process of getting land, or they have land and they haven't broken ground yet, or they just kicked off and they're trying to get land, or get a home. So we have 57 total locations.
And I think when you and I were talking about this a while ago, I think you mentioned that almost every house that you have is either donated, is that right? Or land is donated?
Well,
except for like a few.
Pretty much. But the thing is, we do not open our doors unless we are debt free.
Right.
And have a fully funded first year's budget in the bank.
Right.
So we are always fundraising for year 2.
Right.
We are always a year ahead, so that we're not ever,
sure,
worried about that month or something.
Right.
So that is a policy that we live by for sure.
Right. So you're growing exponentially. I mean, talk about rapid growth in a short amount of time.
Tennessee is like hopping.
Yes.
Because the governor's just
he's putting gas on it for sure.
And then what felt like out of nowhere, Indiana called.
Okay.
Because a caseworker's mom lived in Tennessee, cut out a newspaper article, mailed it to her daughter. Her daughter just still laughs about that. She's like, Mom, it's called the internet. But she cut out the article, mailed it to her daughter, said, this is happening in Tennessee. I think it could help you in your job. She went to a foster mom and said, can you make this happen for us here?
Yes.
That foster mom put her 7 kids and her husband in a minivan, drove to Carter County, and said, teach me how to do this. And that's the first time the board was like, no, we are not leaving the state of Tennessee. That was the first time me and the board went head to head.
Because that's probably, I mean, obviously, whenever you go and you start soliciting funds, I hate that word solicit, but that's what they use. But like you start soliciting funds in other states, it starts to get complex from your audits, your bookkeeping, all that, and processes, procedure. What was a drive for you to say, no, we're going to keep pushing? Like this is the thing where we're going to go into different states, where you knew you felt like God wanted you to continue to expand.
At that point in the journey, how could we say no?
Yeah.
Like, they're kids sleeping in offices.
Right.
Like, are Indiana kids not as worthy? Like,
right.
that's what I'm looking
sure.
That's what I kept looking at I didn't realize how much I used my hands until you put a mic in between my hands. I feel like
you're going to have to go wireless every time
like
you
Will
go.
Ferrell.
Oh, that's awesome.
But like, I mean, that's how, in that moment, I was just like, we can't exclude Indiana.
Yeah.
Like we just can't say, sorry, only Tennessee kids get this.
Right.
I don't care if it's complicated. Figure it out. We got to figure it out. You know, like we figured it out this far.
Right.
Like, he's always sent the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, I joked, like, that was my biggest prayer, honestly. Like, you got to send the right people.
Yeah.
I can't do this, Lord.
Right.
Like, I've never even bounced a checkbook. Like, I was in college and I called my dad and I was like, I don't balance a checkbook. I was like, I think I don't have any checks left. So do I still have money? Does that mean I'm out of money? And nothing. And so I prayed. I was like, God, people are handing me money right and left. I cannot go to jail. I look like I could handle myself, which may get me a little time, buy me a little time,
sure.
but I can't handle myself. I will be crying for my mom in the corner. Help me. And three CPAs showed up.
Wow.
Not one. He thought she needs 3.
Right.
She needs 3. And so he'd always sent the right people.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's when we started saying, we will not do anything out of fear. Fear will not stop us or motivate us. And that is one of the mottos that we live by at Isaiah 117.
I love that.
When we are getting ready to make a decision, we stop and we say, is there fear in this? Either way. Are we not doing it because we're afraid? Are we doing it because we're afraid? Because fear is not a part. We are not going to be an Israelite here. He has proven himself too many times
Yeah.
for us to act like an Israelite right now. Like,
Right.
we are not going to be afraid. And
Yeah.
that just felt like it was just all fear based.
Mm.
Like, what if? What is so scary? I'm like, if we're afraid, we should have never done any of this. I mean, a lot of times people bring up, do you know what could happen in one of your homes? Yeah.
Right. No, for sure.
Then we should have never opened the first one.
Right.
I mean, we can't operate in fear or we would have never done any of this.
Right. And that's a very real thing. I mean, whether anybody is coming from a perspective of business or faith-based work or nonprofit work, whatever, when you set out to cast vision into the unknown, obviously it's the unknown. And I think the enemy does come in very quickly to really try to create fear in our hearts. And we start to think of all the things, like you said, that can go wrong, whatever our context is, whether that's transitional houses with kids coming in, or maybe you're planning on starting a new business. And what if it fails and it affects your personal finances? Like, those are good things to think about. And there's a book I've been reading, which it was through the Global Leadership Summit that I heard it. And it's called The Right Kind of Wrong. I highly recommend this book because it really kind of addresses that failure is inevitable, but how you can mitigate failure in your life and how we can also celebrate certain failures too. And it's helped me as a parent. It's helped me as a pastor, as a leader, because you're so right. Like, if you just are controlled by fear, then you're never going to do anything. You just basically have all these great ideas that will never be done. And then you fast forward in life and you think, man, what if God was really calling you to step out and build an Isaiah house? And next thing you know, cross from Tennessee to Indiana, and you think of all the lives that are impacted, all the things that the Lord has done through Isaiah house because you were willing to step out in the unknown. And even though there was fear, even though there was people who were potentially saying, well, what if this and what if this? Because liability is very big in what we do.
It is.
I mean, when you think of kids coming in, you think of caseworkers, you think of connecting them to the community. I mean, these are kids that have trauma. They have things going on in their life. I mean, something very real could happen, right? I imagine your prayer life went up through the roof, right?
That's right. That's right. You called me to this, Lord.
Yeah.
Now
for
protect.
Yeah. So when you fast forward and you think of, okay, 53 potential locations, and you have your past state lines now, what's the goal now? Are you like, man, we're going to take over? We're taking over the nation, man. We're just going to keep going. As long as someone keeps calling, we're going to keep opening up houses. Is that kind of where you guys are at?
It's funny. There's never been a goal. The goal was one house. We have never sought expansion. The way that we've expanded is someone has come to us and said, help me do this for my community.
Sure.
And the only reason that we're under one 501c3 is because I couldn't stand the thought that there's an Isaiah 117 house out there,
right,
where children aren't being treated the way that we believe they should be treated. Finances aren't being handled the way we believe finances should be handled.
Mm-hmm.
And the house isn't being presented to the public the way we believe it should be presented. So like,
right,
I can't help you do this and put the name on it if I don't know how you're going to keep doing it, and so
Sure.
that's why we decided to have that level of control. And so there was never a plan to expand.
Okay.
And so we just took it one step at a time. And so right now we have 57 locations. We have 60 people on a waiting list, and we have a video coming in every week.
Oh my gosh. 57 locations, 60 people on a waiting list. And when you say a video coming in every week, what is that?
So in 2020, we were given fake emails and fake websites and fake names, and we were told that a small documentary company was coming to visit.
Okay.
I don't do details. I didn't investigate because, okay. They said they wanted to do a story on foster care in the state of Tennessee. They heard about us. They were coming. I show up at the Isaiah house. There's a bunch of our people there, but I knew that. They wanted to interview foster moms. And I walk in. I was like, dude, I don't know who these people are. They say they're not charging us any money. If they try to charge us money, we're going to shut it down because, it looks a little sketch. Their website looks a little sketch. I'm not going to lie. Okay. So if they ask anything inappropriate, don't answer it and don't say anything negative about the state. This was
Right.
my pep talk.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All of a sudden, the amount of men that descended upon this room, once again, should have been a light bulb moment for someone who does details.
Mm.
Microphones are dropping, boom mics. This guy comes over, pulls my shirt out, drops a mic. I mean, there's just like, I'm like, what is happening? I look, did he just drop a mic down my shirt? I mean, there are people everywhere.
Yeah,
I'm still.
Yeah.
I sit down at the table, the door swings open, and this man walks through, and everybody in the room reacts. And I'm like, he's famous, I think. Like
Right.
the way everybody's acting, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm supposed to know him.
Right.
You know? And he walks over and he's like, hi, Rhonda, I'm Mike. And I'm like, hey, Mike. And I have no idea who he is. He's a guy by the name of Mike Rowe. He used to be on a show called Dirty Jobs.
Okay.
He had a show on Joy Likes to Remind Me Facebook called Returning the Favor. They have quite the following.
Just dropped my phone. Sorry. I got excited about Mike Rowe.
I kept thinking, is he that guy off of the show Tim the Toolman Taylor, which by the way is not the name of that show, and you're too young to even.
Yeah. No, I remember that show.
Like,
Home Improvement.
Yes, Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Is he Tim the Toolman
That's a
Taylor?
throwback right there. Let's go.
I'm
TGI
old.
Friday.
I'm old. And so I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
And so anyway, come to find out he's actually pretty famous. And he had this show, Return the Favor. Our episode aired on March 9th of 2020. And 2 million people watched it.
Wow.
March 13th of 2020, the world shut down.
Right.
Everybody hunkered down and did nothing but watch Facebook. And at the end of that show, Mike Rowe said, so basically you need to get yourself a Rhonda. And I'm here to tell you, everybody called to get themselves. After the airing of that show, in 1 month, 41 states and 4 countries reached out wanting an Isaiah 117
Oh
house.
my gosh.
We got this map out and we were just coloring in states.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was a frenzy. And so up until that point, if you wanted to start an Isaiah 117 house, I just invited you to the Carter County house.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, come check
on.
it out. Look at it.
Come on.
Sure.
And so my husband was like, you cannot just invite people. You can't invite people from California. I was like, what you got against people from California?
And people were coming.
And they were coming. You can't invite people from California. Hey, do you watch Dateline? Like, he was like, you can't just invite. We don't know these people. So we had to sit down. At this point, we had no processes anywhere except right here.
Yeah, yeah.
We had so 2020 afforded us time to just sit. There were 4 employees now to sit and just write it all down. I would just talk and they would type and write. And like we started making like employee handbook and a manual to how to do this. And so what we came up with is if you want to start an Isaiah 117 house, you have to submit a video, just a quick 3 to 5 minute video. Why do you want this? Why is it important to you? What are the demographics of your community? What currently happens to a child in your community? Like just those kind of things.
Yeah.
We launched that at the end of March of 2020. We have received at least a video a week, every week since the last week of March of 2020.
My gosh. How do you keep up with all of that?
Well, not well.
Like, goodness gracious.
So I was hospitalized 4 times in 2020.
No.
I actually just flew out to California a couple weeks ago. Mike invited me to come out and be on his podcast.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And so I told him, he was like, so some people struggle with the fame or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, well, I was hospitalized 4 times. He's like, we almost killed you. I was like, you really did.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And, at this point, we can't possibly get to everybody in that queue.
Sure.
We can't grow fast enough to train enough people to do this well, to get to everybody, and so we're going to have to say, listen, you can do this. Like, you do not need to wait on us. You can't call it an Isaiah house.
Right.
I didn't have anybody to follow.
Sure.
Go do this.
Right.
Go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Right.
Like, God will help you on your journey.
That's right.
Go do this. Do not wait on us.
I love that.
Because we've been, expanding, 15 a year. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. It's just not. And, I said to you back when we went to Indiana, how can we not? I feel like God has taught me a very valuable lesson. I feel like in an attempt to not be arrogant or prideful, to always be humble,
Mm-hmm.
pride still sneaks in.
Sure.
And the pride snuck in this way that I can't say no, because if I don't do it, who will?
Mm.
And that's a lie from Satan,
Mm.
because I can't. I've not been called to save the world.
Right.
That's not my job.
Sure.
And I cannot save all the children.
Right.
And Isaiah 117 house has not been called to save all the children.
Mm-hmm.
We can't. So we have to get up every day and do our absolute best.
Yeah.
And then we have to go to sleep because we're human.
Right. Right.
And then we have to do it again.
Yeah.
And I want an organization of people who do have boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and do know how to rest. And I tell my people all the time, if you are doing this job and you do not have time to spend with Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and you do not have time to be with your family and do this job, then you need to quit this job.
Yeah.
Because that is not the life that God has called you to.
Yes. Preach that. I so agree with you.
But it took time for me to get there.
Oh, it is.
Because
it's
it's
a very
hard.
real thing. It is hard. I
I mean,
mean,
it's a ministry.
it
How
is.
and there's children at the end of
Right.
that no.
100%.
So how do you ever say no?
Right. I know. And, the challenge is that obviously we feel called to the things that the Lord has put on our hearts, and we want to be a good steward with the things that He's given us. And we know that time is short, and we know that there's lives that hang in the balance. And we were just talking about CAFO earlier. And if you're listening, you don't know what CAFO is. It's Christian Alliance for Orphans. CAFO, yeah. There's so many acronyms in this space. I'm always getting lost.
So many.
But 4,000 people in attendance, 44 different countries. The very first thing that they said when they got on stage in front of all these people who are in this work is that just what you said. Everyone here is passionate about this space, but the most important thing is we all remember it's not our job to solve it. And hearing that, even as a founder myself and as an executive director, there was kind of this deep breath moment and realizing we can end up pushing our teams too hard. We can end up pushing ourselves too hard, maybe even our family too hard as well too, because we're so passionate. And you're right that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and he can get in the way where we do so much and people around us are like, and that even in of itself can become a motivation without us even realizing it's a motivation. And it's scary. You're right, because you have these moments where all of a sudden, even in doing great work and even doing things where we have pure motives, we still find our heart drifting. And it always just points back to me the need for a savior, right? It's like even in our best efforts of doing good, we still find ourselves, we still find ourselves like sinning, and we don't even mean to sin, and we're doing good work, and yet we find ourselves, our motives switch. And why do we care, or why are we offended, or why are we competitive, or why are we wanting this and not content with what God's given us? And why are we growing? And I've had to ask myself this: am I growing and wanting to grow because I see other organizations growing, and so I feel like I have to grow my organization to quantify a successful organization? Or are we growing because God has really shown us that we need to grow? So those are all things that you're weighing all the time that are hard. And like you said, hospitalized 4 times, and goodness gracious. And you're right, you can't keep up with all of it. And I think that's one of the things I really valued about you, Rhonda, is like when I called you, one, I think it's incredible how accessible you are for the level of leadership that you serve in. I mean, I really commend you for that. That's very rare, unfortunately. I think all of us can think of either our CEOs, and I hate to say this because I never want to like poo-poo on the church, but a lot of teams or a lot of organizations, as that individual continues to get higher and higher and higher, you just can't get them anymore. And I understand that there's practical reasons to that, but I think there is something to be said too about someone who is reachable and is willing. And then also the humility that you have when I've called you and when we were starting our transitional housing and just asking you questions and how fast you were willing to just connect me with the appropriate people to expedite what we were trying to do. And it just showed me how you really are focused on the mission overall, that you want kids to be healed and to be in the environment in which God has called them to be in and find out their identity and who God has created them to be. And if that's an Isaiah house or that's a Bridge house or that's fill in the blank, great. And
Amen.
it's just
Amen.
incredible how you have been able to lead in that way, because even in the nonprofit space, people are competitive. I'm sure you've experienced that.
Yeah.
And you can limit yourself of what God wants to do in our life because of competitiveness or comparison or anything like that. So I really do commend your organization for that. Speak to your employees. I mean, you have how many people on staff?
We have 160.
160 people on staff across how many states? 12 states. How do you manage all of that? You don't have to get into the nitty gritty, but your role has changed a lot now.
It has. And it's, I mean, you know, you talk about accessibility. It's something I don't want to lose. I mean, there's been heartbreaking moments because, you know, there was a time when I knew everybody, like not just knew their name, like knew them.
Yeah.
And you can't know 160 people,
right?
You know, and that has been hard because
I know
that's what brings me joy.
Right.
Is knowing the people, you know, and
you're definitely a people person.
I'm
without
definitely
a doubt.
people person. Like
I love your
I
personality.
had to sit in front of a computer this past week and I had to like talk myself up for a whole week. I'm like, you're a big girl. You can do this. You can sit in front of this computer and you can do the work. I mean, like give myself pep talks. But like, so there's been hard. But this is kind of this is really quick. This is our motto. So love, you're not alone. So we can't have an employee feel alone. So every support person only supports no more than 7 people.
Okay.
So you get to 7, we have to hire somebody else because nobody supports more than 7 people. Because if you can't support well, we don't believe more than 7 people.
Sure.
So we have regional coordinators, we have state directors, and it's just kind of builds. And so in Tennessee, we have a state director, and then we have regional coordinators, and Texas has a state director, regional. And so no one's supporting more than 7 people.
Okay. So no one's supporting more than 7 employees. Gotcha.
And recently I have been.
Okay.
And so we're needing to rectify that. And it's killing me because that's going to move me, you know, a different level. But I still want to be accessible. Like you said, I still want to talk to people. I still want, and so just working through that is just a personal thing. But I was just really convicted maybe about a year ago now. What is time?
I know.
I was listening to a podcast by Andy Stanley, and it's nothing earth-shattering. Probably you've heard some version of this before, but he was saying, you know, don't exchange what someone else can do for what only you can do. And he was talking about this fact that, you know, in your marriage, a lot of times you can ask your spouse to hold something for a while in a season.
Sure.
But there are things that you shouldn't ask your spouse to hold indefinitely. There are things that are yours, you know.
Right.
And I shouldn't exchange, like only I can be Corey's wife. Only I can be Isaiah's mama.
Right.
You know. And it just hit me that for the first part of this ministry, I've asked Corey to hold a lot. I've asked my children to hold a lot.
Yeah.
And was this trickle down happening that I was then teaching my employees, my staff, to do the same thing? And I was just so convicted that is not what I want for my husband, for my children, or for my staff, you know?
Right.
And so I took a sabbatical. I took an 8-week sabbatical. I laid down my phone. I didn't answer emails. I didn't, I mean, I spent,
this was recent?
Oh yeah. This summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I spent 2 hours every morning with Jesus. I moved my body every day because these are the things that make me me that I hadn't done consistently and since this thing started.
Sure.
2 hours every morning with Jesus, moved my body every day, stayed in my house, and I was a mom because I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And that was my plan. And I did a silence and solitude retreat. And that was what I did for 8 weeks. And I found me again, and I found my peace again. And I just want to share that with my staff And more than anything, that's what I want to share with people now is no matter what walk of life you're in, no matter what, if your business, if your ministry, if your God did not call us to a life of hurry.
Yeah.
God did not call us to a life that's killing us. Like he did not call us to a ministry to kill us.
I know. Why do we try to do that though? I mean, I do the same thing. I mean, when somebody calls me and how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm focused and I'm busy and this is what we're doing. And I find this like weird sense of fulfillment from that, but it's unhealthy. And at the same time, I'm like, if I'm honest, I'm exhausted. Like I'm mentally drained. I'm tired. You know, I'm at Olive Garden last night with my wife and I'm crying over the dinner table because I know the safety plans of some of the kids that are here. I know what's happening in our CASA case with a girl who consistently has been my case for 3 years and still doesn't have a home. And she's so sweet. And so I'm sobbing at the table. And at the same time, I'm trying to raise funds and going into board meetings and budget meetings. And you can feel so alone. But at the same time, you are so passionate about what you're doing. And you can find yourself in this place of getting this weird sense of like Celsius fulfillment from it, where you pound a Celsius down. Caffeine is like your lifeblood to do what you're doing. And but yet at the end of the day, when the doors close and the lights are off and you lay your head down, you, like you said, you find you're almost like mission drift in yourself. You're like, man, where am I right now? Like, sure, and things may be really great on the outside, like really going great, but yet you can still lay your head down and be like, gosh, where am I right now? You know, I think it's really, really special that you lead that way. And is just a huge reminder to everybody that we're not called to that, whether it's for profit or nonprofit and again, I kind of revert back to being accessible. And I prefaced it as well too, that I loved that about you, but at the same time, there's only, like you said, you can only if you have any more than 7, like you're not going to be able to manage that.
Right.
And that is a very real thing. And so I said all that in the context of still knowing that, you know, we can't be all things to all people and just have our phone ringing all the time and answer all the calls. We'll be a call center. You know what I mean? So I get that too. But I think there is at the root of it, really what I was getting at is that you care and you want people to feel valued and noticed. And that's very evident in just the way that you create culture, and not only the Isaiah House, but just even over the phone and even over email. Or, I mean, it's special to see that. And you can tell that. And I think that's the root at the heart of it is like, do we care? Because and again, if we can't be the person, like who we can care enough to help them find the person that can help them, you know? So there's beauty in that too. And I appreciate you sharing your vulnerability in that. You wrote a book. Hit that really quick before we close. I know I could talk to you forever, but I know you got places to be, and you, like you said, you got a family, you need to get to them. But
well, supposedly there's flooding. So
right.
I got to drive slow.
Right.
That'll be a new thing for me.
Yeah.
So yes, he's inviting us in the story of Isaiah 117 House. You can find it on our website, Isaiah117house.com. It's also on Amazon.
Nice.
We also have it on Audible. And it's pretty fun because our whole family went down there.
Yeah.
Corey wrote a part, Sophie wrote a part, Mac wrote a part, and we all read our part. So it's pretty fun.
Just real quick on that. You got all this going on and you write a book. How the heck do you do that?
Well, I mean, I worked with a great team.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. I worked with a great team, and I did a lot of talking, and somebody else did a lot of typing.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man. Yeah. And then just real quick, everyone who's listening as it relates to joining you guys financially, joining you guys in this mission, how do you want them to get involved with you guys?
Honestly, just go to the website. It's all right there. You can see all of our locations. You can see our homes. You can take tours of our homes. You can give to a specific location. You can give to the general fund. I mean, it's all right there. Yeah. So just check out Isaiah117house.com.
Love it. And for those of you, when you check these homes out, I have personally toured them. Dude, they're nicer than my own house.
They're nicer than my house.
Those houses are on point. Who the heck decorates those houses? Like, good God, these are amazing.
We do have a decorator's guide.
Do you?
We do.
I need to get a copy of that. You need to sell that for some fundraising. Here's your decorator's guide for your house. It'll look like an Isaiah house.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for joining us. Man, I'm just such a huge fan of you and your husband and your family and what you've done for the state of Tennessee, what you're doing for so many nonprofits and encouraging them to move forward and the things that God's called them to. I know you've had a massive impact on the Bridge House and what we're doing. And just have been such a huge resource to me personally and to our team. I know y'all are starting a location in Gallatin, which is, not too far from us. And one of our team members was there yesterday, just rooting you on. And I love that because that's what it's all about, And so I always send my team out there. Yeah, go celebrate them. And so just championing you guys forward and really appreciate you guys. Thanks for being on.
Well, thank you. And I'm just so proud of you. I love the space that you're entering. When I walked into this world, I mean, there's obviously flaws and gaps, but the two gaps that stood out to me were the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
We weren't doing either one of those well. And I was drawn to the beginning because that's what I walked with Isaiah and his brother Eli. But we're not doing the end well. And so I'm so proud of you, and I'll be praying for you.
Oh, please do, because I'm terrified bringing housing and for kids that are 18 to 20 because we're looking at it like, okay, well, we can't treat it like our transitional house for 0 to 17. These are adults now, technically. So,
but they need you. They need you.
I might be taking a sabbatical here soon. I'm going to Disney World.
That's right.
That's awesome.
There's no rest at Disney World.
Yeah, there's no rest. I know. It's true. It's true. Yeah, I know. Yeah, really. That's awesome. Anyways, well, girl, thanks for being on. Man, we love you and we're praying for you and best is yet to come. Yeah, absolutely.